Carl and Damon here from Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's They Made What into a Movie. Episode 50. How about that? Episode 50. This will be our 50th movie we've covered, which is quite a substantial amount if you consider that, think about it, considering full-length movies.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. It's gone quick.
Yeah, indeed. And this is an interesting one, to say the least. This is Dead Rising Watchtower. It's a 2015 action zombie film directed by Zach Levitsky, produced by Thomas Harlan and Tim Carter, and written by Tim Carter. Based, of course, on the video game of the same name, and released on Crackle March 27th, 2015. Do you remember when Crackle was a thing? Briefly, Crackle?
I don't even know what the hell that is, to be honest.
Well, you would have seen it. It was a streaming channel. But you would have seen it at the start of this movie, where it's because it's a title card. It was a Crackle exclusive.
Oh, okay, yeah. I must have missed that completely.
I believe it's gone. I believe it's not around. It's certainly not one that's relevant anyway. But yeah, I remember briefly when Crackle was a thing. Yes. So this film is set between the events of Dead Rising 2 and Dead Rising 3, which is a bit of a small problem. Not a huge one, but a little bit of a small problem, because I did this movie under the belief, and maybe I should have checked with you, that you were familiar with Dead Rising long term. It turns out previously, just talking off screen, off camera, you're only familiar with the first Dead Rising game. So yeah, that means the sort of detail around Zombrex and stuff like that that's in this film, you didn't really understand?
I didn't actually understand, no, because to be honest, I thought it was just a typical. It's what they put in there to make the movie. No. That's what I thought. Yeah, first, yeah.
No, it's a specific thing that's introduced in Dead Rising 2 as a way to kind of like people to stave off the zombie infection having to take Zombrex. In fact, Dead Rising 2, let me tell you then, do this for you and for everyone else. Dead Rising 2 specifically, story is you play Chuck. Chuck, who is not in this film either. Chuck, who has a daughter, and his daughter needs Zombrex. So when a zombie outbreak occurs on Fortune City, you also, as well as having to do the time-related stuff you normally do, you must always make sure you get Zombrex for your daughter within 24 hours and so on, like that. So like that's an aspect of it. And that Zombrex stays a major thing going forward. And the thing is, if you remember Dead Rising 1, Dead Rising hinted at this being created. So obviously Frank West gets bitten at the end of Dead Rising 1 and has to make a cure or like a temporary reprieve. That is Zombrex. Cool. So it's all there. That's really interesting, right? So that's really interesting because I think this movie is terrible for one reason. Yes. Okay. I think, who the frick is this supposed to appeal to? I do not understand this at all. Right. This drove me freaking nuts. Is it supposed to appeal to fans of the game? Why change so much then? Why do so many weird things? Why make a brand new character who isn't Frank West, but then put Frank West in it in a pointless role? Why do any of that? Why do a basic bitch zombie film with nothing really interesting from the game happening aside from some references? Why do any of that, right? Why not do? You've done the bit, right? But then on the flip side, why jam in so much stuff from the game that a casual viewer would not understand? Like, this film acts like you should know all the Dead Rising stuff. You should know about Zombrex. You should know about Willamette. You should know who Frank West is. It acts like there was a previous freaking movie. This feels like the second film in a trilogy. Like there was a movie beforehand that was based around Dead Rising. Like, it feels like you should know this. So how the hell does this appeal? If you're a casual watcher who knows nothing, you were just dropped in this world where apparently Zombrex exists. You're told and implied that this character is really important, Frank, and given all this information about how zombies work and what the government and all of this just dropped on you and expected just to go along with it. Not only is it mind-blowingly boring, because it really is boring shit, but it's all about this cure and all of that, but it mostly doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes down to traditional zombie stuff. I could not understand the thinking behind this. On the one hand, you've done fuck all for gamers, the actual gamers, when it comes to the story-wise. But then on the other, you've given them too much. It just doesn't work. So I ended up really, and this is the second time I've seen this movie, and the first time I was a lot easier on it. Now, I didn't write the review on the site. Brendan did.
Oh.
And he quite liked this film. And I remember watching it and thinking it was okay. On the second watch, I think it's a bad movie with good moments and good things within it. It's frustrating as hell because, and here's the thing, I don't care if you did this about just adapting Dead Rising. I don't, because we've already seen if you just try and adapt an actual game or several games, e.g. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, if you try to do that, you'll fuck it up anyway. But why not just bloody do Dead Rising 2 then? I get it. You don't want to do Dead Rising 1 because it's in a mall and because it's just too similar.
Yeah.
It's too similar to Dawn of the Dead. I get that. Do Dead Rising 2 then. That's set in Fortune City, a casino city with gambling and all of that, Vegas style. Then you could do, because the joke is, then you could do the Chuck Green stuff about him and his daughter having been bitten. You could do all of that freaking stuff. There's stuff that they imply here as well. Hell, this film even mentions the Fortune City outbreak. And when they did that, I was like, what are you doing? I know that's for me. That's for me. But it means nothing. I can't understand the thinking behind this. And so basically, my big issue with this film is it was doomed to fail. Because who the fuck is it appealing to? But as much as I hate that and think it makes the film a terrible thing to experience, there are stuff in it that I do really like. So we are going to obviously talk about that. But this was my view in it, obviously quite different to how yours was going to be. Because your experience is obviously different to this. So sum up what you felt.
I mean, I'll be honest. So I actually thought it was an okay film. I agree with what you're saying. I thought there were some really good parts I liked. I thought there were some really stupid parts. E.g., for me, that the entire Frank West part. Actually, I won't go into. Well, we'll cover it when we get to it.
Absolutely.
But my first worry when I saw this film was it was an hour and 56 minutes long. I thought, oh my God.
That's long, isn't it? That's fucking long.
That's like just short of a Lord of the Rings film, by about 40 minutes or so. Well, or an hour or so. But
he's exaggerating there. But I know what I get your point. This is a zombie fucking film adapted from a video game. Why are you touching 2 hours, you lunatics?
I know. And then I thought that I actually thought that it was made by Yuri Ball. That's why I thought at first. But then obviously when I checked out, I was a bit more relieved. But
the good news is, I'm going to jump in again. The good news is, thanks to our coverage, we don't have a ton of Yui Ball stuff left.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, I thought the film was okay. As you said, I think it had some good points. I like the little homages to Dead Rising. You know, it's something simple like the we'll get to it when we get to it. But I thought it was okay.
Yeah, there are homages to Dead Rising. There are way more homages to Dead Rising 2 than anything else. Because, of course, things like weapon creating. Like, you must have been baffled about that. Because this film puts a really weird emphasis on their weapons they create. Of course, that's something that's introduced in Dead Rising 2, where you can take weapons and combine them to make new weapons. You know, you put an electric saw with a giant, like, ore and create a freaking swingy stick. You can do all of that in Dead Rising 2. In fact, that would become the franchise standard going forward. And it's what Dead Rising 3 and 4 would keep, you know? So this is going to be interesting. We definitely watched this from 2 quite different perspectives. So we might have picked up on different things. Okay. Cast then. Jesse Metcalf. Starting it again. Okay, cast then. Jesse Metcalf as Chase Carter. Right. I get it. And I don't get it. I get why you'd want to create a new character for the film. It's just easier, right? There were no preconceived notions around his character. We're not judging him on not being Frank West or Chuck Green or any of that. It's just a brand new character. It's very easy to do. And Jesse Metcalf is a decent enough actor. I've seen him in some other stuff. However, this character is just boring. He's just boring.
Well, obviously, I initially thought that was Frank until obviously you heard his name.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. When I first watched, I 100% agree because the joke is he kind of has a Frank look.
that's what I thought. I actually thought he looks better than he looks better as Frank than the Frank in the film. So,
I agree. It would have been really easy just to write this as Frank, but the problem
mhm.
is obviously it would have created conflict for people who like the games, where they're
Yeah,
like, "Well, that's not my Frank West" and stuff like that, you know.
of course.
Megan Ori as Crystal or O'Rourke. She's good. I quite like her in this. I think she's one of the better characters.
Yeah.
A random star, if you want, Virginia Madsen as
Mm.
Maggie. Um, what I will talk about Maggie as we get into this, but honestly, I think whoever the writing of her is beyond stupid, but not
Hmm.
because beyond stupid because they have something with her. They have something that they could have really done well, and they really don't do it well at all. But we'll get into that.
Yep.
Keegan Connor Tracy as Jordan Blair. This character sucks. And this character sucks because the majority of this film, she's only there to try to fill in the blanks and like create a thread between Chase and outside world. And she's in
Yeah.
the middle there as the basically a phone call. That's all it is. Ended up hating this character and being annoyed by what she was doing.
Hmm.
Alex Hornovic as Logan. Now, you might be do you know who this character is in the film? Because it's not said often and it's a bit confusing. I had to look it up. The head of the biker gang.
Okay.
The main dude, the main
The main
biker
guy.
gang bad guy.
Yep. Cool.
Mm. See what I mean? They give him a name, but they never really say it.
No, I don't.
Dennis Haysbert as General Leons. He's a regular. He's a familiar face.
Mhm.
So he's fine in this.
Yeah.
Gary Jones as Norton. Carrie Genzel as Susan Collier. She's like the host of a network TV show that plays off against Rob Riggle as Frank West. Now, this is why we need to stop and talk. So, Rob Riggle is brilliant. He is a fantastic actor, and whenever I've seen him and stuff, he's often very funny, very
Mhm.
amusing, and he is a very good Frank West. He gets across the sarcasm, the stupidity, the bravery, the pig-headedness, the sort of the cockiness, all the things about Frank West that actually the later games would do even better. Like he nails it. I think he's really strong, and I'm still very annoyed why they just didn't make him the star, like instead of Chase. I do not get it.
I like him, but every time I see him, all I think is Step Brothers and bam, bam.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But yeah, I do think he got the role very well. You know, the arrogant, the overconfident. Yeah, proper really good.
Yeah, but unfortunately, his role is basically him sitting in a TV studio, and every so often they cut and ask his opinion about something.
Mm.
What starts off like interesting, I thought by the end I was sick of it. Every time they kind of cut to it, I was like, oh, because what annoys me is that like they act like, oh my God, he's so frustrating. Like, why do you keep him on air then? Like, end the
Hmm.
show, right?
Yeah, it's more like it was more being used for a comedic value, really.
It becomes skits. It becomes
Yeah.
skits. Okay, we begin. As a man we will later know as Chase Carter escapes from a horde of zombies but ends up having to deal with a police one and a clown one in an alleyway. Having to use what's around him, he's able to kill the police one but ends up under the clown one. And as it looks to be all over him, especially as the horde has broken through the gate, we cut to a few days earlier. Now I get why they started with this. They start with this really pointless cold open because what's about to follow is so dull, everyone would have switched off within the first 10 minutes. So it's like, okay, right, we're about to drop all this annoying information about Zombrex and Fiza and all of this crap. And rather than like bore our audience to death, if we start it off with like a 5 minute/10 minute zombie where we show off the makeup and the characters and all of that, if we start it like that, then maybe they'll be engaged enough to see what happens next.
I get that, and I understand that, but Man, I was confused. I had to search on YouTube. Am I watching the full video? Because I thought that the film was, I started halfway through it, but then obviously I ran forward a bit. And I saw it 3 days later. I thought, oh, okay, you're going to do this. You're going to show me the exact same thing again, half a bit in the film. So
well, we'll talk about that part specifically. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. The opening at least shows that the zombie makeup effects are going to be strong.
yeah.
East Mission, Oregon, has been quarantined by the government running an organization called FEZA, which stands for the Federal Emergency Zombie Agency. It is an organization that attempts to contain a viral outbreak that turns people into zombies. The antiviral drug called Zombrex does help keep the virus at bay. That's the basic info dump. Now, I've summed it up there, but again, like I said already at the start of this video, this film acts like you should know all of this information already, which is not good.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, not knowing that information, I just thought it was just something that they put in the film to make it a film, basically.
But right. So that's interesting, though. You were able to follow along regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I just
that's
presumed.
good then. That's a good sign because you've just taken it on face value and gone, okay, this is what's in the film. It may have not made loads of sense to you, but you were happy enough to play along.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Chase is a reporter looking for a big story in the quarantine zone with his camera woman, Jordan. That's just Frank West. What are you doing?
Hence why I thought it was Frank.
He wants something with a bit more bite and even tries to get something out of a woman named Crystal nearby. She doesn't give him much, but does reveal that she harbors some anti-government sentiment and suggests that the people in this town are being treated the way they are because it's a town of infected people. Right. So this intro of meeting these characters is designed to sort of set up a couple of their different motivations. There's some good stuff here that they drop so quick. I find it really frustrating. So at first they imply that Chase might be the kind of character who will push the boundaries of what's acceptable to get a story. And I thought that could be a really good angle where throughout the film he has to learn to be less selfish and help others and all that. They do try to do that, but I don't think they do it well because what they didn't do at the start was push Chase as a really selfish individual. Because they want to make sure he stays likable, they don't push that too hard. And I was a bit like, you needed to go a little heavier with that. You needed me to go, oh, what a dick. So when he kind of has to help people and be a better person, you kind of didn't get behind them, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, because I mean, in the very next scene, he's completely different. He's changed his personality from being a dickhead basically to now being a
I think you're overemphasizing that. They do not make him look like a dickhead, in my opinion. They try to hint that he might be, but they're just not brave enough to do it. It's like I said, like they want to keep him likable. Crystal's anti-government stuff I do find kind of interesting, but again, it's dropped so quickly because, again, the anti-government stuff and the mistrust of Zombrex and the government and all of that is something the games would later explore. Unfortunately, this it's only hinted about here and not really explored well either. What I do like, and again, I wish they'd gone this route, stronger route. I do like the implications that rightfully, and again, it's something from the games, those who have been bitten by zombies, regardless of zombies, are treated like lesser citizens. Treated like, do you know what I mean? Like problems of society and stuff like that. I quite like that. I don't know, did you get that vibe?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not hard to see that they're behind the walls, they're in quarantine, they're waiting for a bus that's never going to turn up and stuff like that. So I definitely felt that.
After she leaves, we then get a Frank West reference, and Jesse wants to be like him. Or Chase, sorry, Jesse's the actual actor. I'll call the actual actor there. Chase wants to be like him and is willing to do things that make Jordan uncomfortable. After she leaves, he sneaks into a medical tent and secretly takes videos of people being given Zombrex. While this is happening, and this all happens really quick, while this is happening, we see a plane flying over, and shortly afterwards, several people fall to the floor and turn into zombies, including a few inside the medical tent where Chase is. This starts a full-on zombie outbreak as zombies start to attack, and Chase is separated from Jordan, who manages to escape, but he ends up hooking up with Crystal, and as the zombies are attacking the survivors. Really odd there's a really odd Wilhelm scream here. You know the scream that's famous in film and normally done when people fall off things or are thrown off things. There's a Willem
Yeah.
scream when someone's being eaten by a zombie. And I thought it was well out of place. So out of place that I wrote it down. I was like, that's freaking weird.
So I'm glad you mentioned it because I was going to say that scream is so unique in those sort of games, and I thought it was just such a random place to put it in. You know, it could have been someone falling off the top of the bridge or something like that, but it was just such a random spot to have it in there.
It is. It is. Frank, he's been interviewed on the news about the East Mission incident and goes into graphic detail about what zombies will do. So this is how our Frank West is introduced and how he'll be portrayed through the film. Meanwhile, Chase is grabbed by a zombie and Crystal leaves him to it. And I quite like that. Don't get me wrong, I knew there'd be a kind of, oh, they'll become friends or lovers or whatever as the film goes on. You know, it's classic, easy stuff.
Yeah,
He is able to fight it off. And here we get a unique aspect to this film that I'm not sure I like. And that is the POV camera work, where the camera is like on the edge of a weapon, and we kind of get that like POV of that weapon being used.
yeah.
I didn't like it because it's very quick. Like it's normally like a second or two cut, but it's so fast and frantic, like it's impossible to pay attention to.
Yeah, as I said, it happened so fast that I didn't realize what I'd seen, so I actually had to go back because it was literally like you blink and you miss it.
Yeah. And that happens a couple of times throughout the movie, but it's not always consistent either. Crystal, she comes across a woman who is near catatonic, having been forced to kill her daughter when she turned into a zombie. Yeah, this scene is so randomly dropped into this like film here. We're kind of just getting basic bitch zombie action, and then it's like, oh, here's a woman sitting by the dead body of her daughter, having killed her when her daughter like reacted to bad Zombrex.
Mm.
And it's like, this should be like quite a dark, it's a dark scene. It feels, I think it's too dark for Dead Rising.
Uh, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but for me personally, I thought it was just too convenient. I thought it was the fact that how that literally that there's no other zombies around. They're being chased by hundreds and hundreds of zombies, and she's just sat there in the street. The car's there ready. I thought it was just too convenient. I would have liked this scene to happen maybe in a shop or further down the road or something like that, not literally right on top of the bridge where they were.
No, that's fair enough. Okay. Well, Chase does arrive, and together they're able to convince this woman, which is Maggie, to come with them in the car. And inside, Chase suspects Zombrex has stopped working. No shit, Sherlock. You literally saw someone being injected with it and then reacting anyway. That's not a, I think Zombrex might have stopped working moment. It's like, it looked to me like Zombrex didn't. You know, don't be that guy, Chase. You're not a genius.
Yeah,
I've covered wars, you know. They had to get that line in, didn't they? And the thing
yeah.
is, you know what? It's fine. It's an easy reference to make. I don't mind it. So, Chase calls his ex-boss, who just so happens to be the reporter interviewing Frank. What a coincidence. He reveals to her where he is, and live on the air reveals that Zombrex didn't work on the people inside the town, and it looks like he has his scoop. Their car ride ends in a crash when they hit a zombie who ends up in a windscreen. When I said certain scenes I liked, this one I liked because this is what would actually happen. The majority of the time when you see people running over zombies and all that or things, whatever. But this, the fact that they hit a zombie and the zombie doesn't just go like get knocked off or go on the wheels, it comes crashing through the windscreen. I was like, that's more realistic. That's what would actually happen.
I agree, but because at the time I thought this was another Yuri Ball movie, I hadn't checked yet, and when I saw the zombie with a stop sign, I thought that zombie's going to fucking just stand there with a stop sign, isn't he? He's going to stand there with a stop sign. That's what I
Right.
thought. But
I have to ask you then, because obviously this film will make lots of sort of semi-silly, have the zombies doing semi-silly things that may be more human related. This is a more and quite direct reference to things that Dead Rising would start to do later in life. In fact, Dead Rising 1 would have zombies pushing zombie carts and things like that. It's references to elements of Dawn of the Dead. You know in Dawn of the Dead where they see the zombies kind of shopping and it's a talk about, well, they remember some part of their lives. It's that
yeah,
kind of thing. So in this film, I didn't mind it at all. This sort of aspect of like, all right, there's the sight of a zombie pushing itself along on a wheelchair is a little much. Do you know what I mean? But I don't mind it because it fits the Dead Rising universe.
Yeah, now that you said about the whole Dawn the Dead thing about the shopping trolleys, it actually makes sense. Actually, it actually does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So Crystal's quick to react and gets to safety in a pawn store, and eventually Chase and Maggie get inside too. Even if Crystal seems really, there's a random moment where it seems like Crystal isn't going to let them in. I don't really get that because the Crystal character we met earlier on, right? While she was a bit rough with Chase, she wasn't rude. Now I would have again written her, have her be like basically, piss off, mate, don't come near me, and I survive on my own, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
You know when he's chasing after her and trying to catch up with her, have her turn around and say, "Can tell him to fuck off." Like
Yeah.
I don't want you around. Like do that. Like she's basically I'm a survivor, and to do that I stay on my own. So she's initially like, I'm not going to let these two idiots in, but she eventually relents because she's not a murderer.
It was for the drama, you know. You have to wait until the zombies get a bit closer and then open out at the last second, just so they try to grab them.
It wasn't even that dramatic, Damon.
I know, I know.
Inside the pawn shop, they start the tool up and we get some of the sort of Dead Rising weapon making that we all know. However, I found it to feel quite awkward. It doesn't. Here's the thing: making weapons in the game works because it's part of the actual gameplay. And doing it in the film, it just feels awkward, and you end up going, "Why am I having to watch this?"
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wasn't aware about obviously the weapon making stuff. For me, I just thought it was just a standard throw in the film that they're going to do. But I did spot the old Lego head, on the desk, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's tons of little things in the background and stuff like that for you to
Mm.
enjoy. So yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, that you didn't know the weapon making is such an integral part of the Dead Rising games going forward.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah,
At the exit to East Mission, the police stop Jordan and try to send her back, but the arrival of other survivors being chased by zombies forced them to let her out and they close the gate behind her. Chase gets through to her and they catch up as the police start firing on the zombies and the survivors before Jordan is taken to quarantine. Chase then reveals to the others that they're trapped inside. Do you notice this film has like what feels like end of parts? Like where it's like he'll say something like this and the screen will go to black and you're like, oh, is that an ad break? Like it weirdly feels like that, right?
yeah. It felt like it was cut like in four different sections.
It was shown in four different parts, right? It
Mm.
wasn't. It wasn't. So I don't get it. I wonder if Crackle had, I can't remember, maybe Crackle had ads and this is where they were inserting them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's yeah.
So I've glossed over Chase's conversation with Jordan on the phone, but I am now about to bring it up because it's about to drive me nuts throughout the rest of this film. The biggest freaking flaw in this film, the dumbest thing, the thing that makes no sense and just makes the movie fall apart as far as I'm concerned. Okay, spoiler. Go on,
Can I ask what I think it is?
go on.
How his phone never dies?
Oh, close, but not quite. The phone not dying, I can live with because, hey, if it's your battery, for example, my phone is quite new. And if I didn't really use it aside from the odd phone call here and there, because remember, let's be honest, he's not going to be sitting there on apps and playing Candy Crush, is he? I think my phone would last a couple of days.
Yeah.
No, it's the fact this phone works. It's the fact that the network is not blocked. And
Mm.
what makes this even more infuriating is that when we find out later on that this is all some big conspiracy and plan, that the idea that nobody thought to block the fucking phone signal, the government, the army, who are all involved in this conspiracy, do not block the phone signal. And even later, when videos are being sent out via Chase's phone, do not think we should stop this so that nobody can get proof of what's going on out. This
Mm.
continues throughout the whole film, and it is beyond stupid. It is beyond stupid because it's so basic, and the worst thing is they need it because if Chase can't speak to Jordan, none of the story works. None of it gets told properly.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is true.
Unless you're a good writer who knows, I know what I'll do. I'll write this from the different angles. I'll write Jordan finding the conspiracy out bit by bit outside the walls, and Chase finding the conspiracy out inside the walls. And eventually, together, inside and outside, they put it together and find a way to communicate. Maybe via some hacker network. Maybe they run into a character who's a hacker who can hack into a pirate network and all, you know what I mean? All that sort of
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so easy to do. But instead, they don't. They do it really lazy and they go, oh, well, the government just decided they wouldn't close the network down and literally allow proof to go out. Now, there's another way they could have got around this, which is, again, it's part of the conspiracy. And they actively want people like Chase to send out information that Zombrix didn't work and that this and that and whatever to lead to what they get at the end. Except that doesn't work because they end up leaving all the proof of the shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand. I just thought it was really dumb.
Mm.
Anyway, the news is now reporting that there might be a new strain spread by touch of air, which Chase via phone call denies based on what he is experiencing. This is hilarious. So the word is spreading that there might be a new strain of the zombie virus, and Chase basically goes, nah, it's not. I've seen something different. And everybody goes, cool, all right then. And it is never mentioned again. Like, they literally take Chase's word for it, and I thought that was so fucking funny.
I mean, it's not exactly go, oh, yeah, oh, by the way, it is a new strain. I'm infected. He's obviously going to...
I just find it hilarious how quickly it's dropped. Now, this one happened several times throughout the film where Chase's word is just taken. Like, it's hilarious. He does get a bit of a pep talk from Frank, encouraging him to keep reporting. Frank insists to his interview that the government will firebomb the place before letting anyone out. Chase then asks to interview Maggie, and she talks about her daughter, how she was infected as a baby, and she feels guilty. And she talks about her though she's still alive. Now, this is where Virginia Madsen proves to be such a great actor again. This scene is fantastic. Where she talks about her daughter being infected as a baby, describes the events, it's harrowing stuff, and it's the kind of Chuck Green reference that we kind of like, it's hinting towards what Chuck Green went through.
It's a great scene.
I love it.
It's emotional, yeah.
Yeah, particularly the fact that she basically can't quite, her mind's broken a bit. She can't quite contend with the idea that her daughter is dead. You can tell that it's there at the back of her mind, but she won't let that thought process in, because if it does, it'll likely destroy her.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a real shame that this is used so poorly, folks, because this is main character stuff, and instead, it's kind of just put to the side for, I don't know, shock value later on, a shock value scene that I think also doesn't make any sense, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will do.
Night is fallen and Jordan is tested by medical head Norton to see if she's infected. Meanwhile, inside a pawn shop, Chase is woken by an alarm going off. He finds it's a Zombrix bracelet on the armor crystal and she's given herself a shot. Chase watches while holding a hammer behind his back, but Crystal seems okay, if not a bit upset. If these characters had a bit more depth to them, this scene would be really strong as well. The struggle, it does a great job of showing like how close it can get, like when Zombrix alarm, the bracelet goes off and all of that and all those elements and how close it can be and what it's like as the zombie virus starts to take over. But Chase holding the hammer behind his back, her knowledge that he kind of, that like her, like she knows that like it's quite a horrible scene between the pair of them, I think.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Clearly disturbed, and when things are beginning to sink in, Chase has a moment in a bathroom before he calls Jordan and tells about Crystal. So this moment where Chase almost like has a traumatic moment in the bathroom. What are we doing here? Like, this only works if we'd had a bit more about his character beforehand. So this is a good example where had they made him out to be a bit of a selfish git who was more than happy to see people zombified to get his story. And then he's having this traumatic moment in the bathroom where he witnessed all these people dying. He's just witnessed Crystal, a survivor. Like, and he held a hammer behind his back for the possibility that he might have had to cave her head in. Like, and then he has this trauma. I think it would have meant more.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, there was no character building at all.
But intriguingly, Zombrix worked on her. And that's why. Like, it's why. Is it her or is it the drug? And he realizes that's the story. Yeah. Get Crystal in front of a camera and that's the proof that someone isn't being honest. And I was like, wait, is it though? Again, the idea that all he has to do is get Crystal in front of the camera and be like, oh, she's taking Zombrix and she's fine. So clearly the government or FISA aren't being honest. I'm like, people aren't just going to take your word for that. They'll be like, well, you're lying, mate, or this isn't the same thing, or that, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, right?
It's a very, very big leap. So
Yes. Anyway, it's morning, and Maggie wakes Crystal up, revealing that she knows about her infection and she understands based on her daughter. Crystal is grateful but needs to leave anyway. Whereas Jordan is visited by Norton, who reveals that she's fine and tells her to leave. She tries to tell him about Chase and Crystal, but he's not interested, giving her the option of finding proof but doing it quickly as the army is rolling in. It's a unit run by General Leons, and in a press conference, he explains that they're here to support Visa and that within 48 hours, firebombing will commence. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. This is such a dump. First off, I find it hilarious how often Leons is going to have to do a press conference. I have never seen an army guy have to do as many press conferences in a short period of time that he has to do in this film. It is a lazy way for him to say information for us. Now, for some reason, they decide to put an arbitrary Dead Rising timer on this. So in 48 hours, they're going to firebomb the city. What blows my mind is how okay everyone is with this. It's like everyone just goes, oh, okay, all good. You know, like it's crazy.
yeah, you're gonna blow up half a city, kill thousands of people. That's okay. We're all fine with it. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
or,
crazy that and I realize that this is set between Dead Rising 2 and 3, so this is not a new occurrence, but it's so matter of fact that I think like if you're not aware of sort of the process to contain a zombie outbreak based off the games, this just feels really callous.
mm,
Anyway, so how disappointing now is it to realize? So at this point, you might realize, oh, this is all they're going to do with Frank West sitting in a newsroom for no reason. And I was again like, okay, right, that's fine. But also like from people who don't know the games. How confusing is this? You're like, who is this character, and why do I have to keep cutting back to him being interviewed? And like the film goes, oh, he's a survivor from the Willamette incident, right? And if you've
mm.
never seen the games, you might be like, oh, I guess that's important, like and all that. But it's not going to make any sense for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me personally, who hasn't played obviously past one, every time they mentioned that incident, I just thought like it was something that happened off camera or something, or they're just talking about it, you know. So I didn't realize that it was based around an actual experience of the game.
No, no, it's based Frank. We'll talk about Frank West specifically. His stuff's Dead Rising 1. You played Dead Rising 1.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I mean. His stuff is not because the stuff that would come later with Frank West. This film came out before, so like it's only referenced in Dead Rising 1 for him.
oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Right in the pawn shop, Crystal is getting stuff together as Chase asks about her Zombrex, and she reveals that she gets them on the black market, but is about to run out and is scared because she doesn't know where to get more. That's cool. The idea that okay, yeah, so she's got an important sort of timer as well. Maggie now arrives and wants to come up with a plan for survival, but their conversation is interrupted by Leon's announcement of firebombing. And you're like, okay, so they realize that they're now going to have to be quick because the firebombing is going to happen. But if that's not bad enough, here's a random biker gang. Now, this is a combination of sort of like psychopath stuff from Dead Rising, you know, the
Yeah.
franchise, yeah. Our group hide in the back, but of course, a pawn shop is going to be attractive to a group like this. Naturally, they would go, all right, let's go look in a pawn shop. And one sword-wielding guy goes inside. This is the leader, Logan. Meanwhile, the rest of the bikers have some fun with zombies, and I get the impression here that the creators were quite proud of their zombie makeup. I think they should be. I think they did a really good job of making the zombies look quite good and unique.
Yeah, I think they put a lot of time and effort in making actually really good zombies.
Yeah, I think that when praise is deserved, they should get it, and it's here.
Yeah.
Crystal's makeshift weapon is seen by Logan, and he goes deeper into the store. She is able to get the drop on him and make him leave his sword before sending him away. In what I think is an incredibly confusing scene, she basically takes his sword, tells him to leave his sword, tells him to leave, and he does. He just leaves. He takes her makeshift weapon, but when he goes outside, he doesn't say to the rest of his gang, hey, there's a survivor in there, or several survivors, or whatever. He just leaves? Why?
I have no idea. I mean, even when the other guy came in the shop, and he looks at him, and it looks like he's about to say, "Oh, there's people there," but he just walks out. I didn't get it personally. I just, he's supposed to be a psychopath. That's what I'm guessing what he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
that's the kind of the idea as well. Like in any, I mean, Dawn of the Dead had a biker gang at the end. In any sort of apocalypse scenario, like a group's going to rise up. Don't get me wrong, this group appeared really, really quickly, and that only worked like really quickly within a day. Remember, it's only been a day since this place was quarantined and all of that. And what's worse is later they'll reveal that Logan was a normal guy before like becoming this leader of the biker gang,
yeah,
which is fine in the context of the game because that's what happens to a couple of people in it. But I'm like, wait a minute. So within a very short amount of time, he stopped being a 9-to-5er, as he says, became a leader of a biker gang, and went on like Mad Max within like
yeah.
a day. It's a bit much, right?
Till I didn't get to it because they talk about a lot how proud the army was and like the medical team, how they closed the area down so fast, blocked every exit. So how did the biker get in, or were they already in there?
They're already in. They're already in. They're already in.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
what it's implying is they weren't a gang. They weren't a gang before the zombie apocalypse happened in that town. But they became a gang really quick.
Yeah, well, in an hour or so, Facebook.
Yes. So outside, here's an idiot survivor asking for help from the bikers. What in your right mind looks at those dudes and went, they'll help me? So yeah, it goes as well as expected, and his partner is left to be torn apart by zombies. Back with Frank, the reporter tries to lead Frank into a deeper question about his experience. And we do get this weird moment where he almost has like a darker moment, remembering his experience before he ends up talking about killing zombies and building weapons. That annoys me. The building weapons annoys me. Do you know why? That was not an aspect of Dead Rising 1.
He didn't do it, yeah.
Yep. Back in the pawn shop, Crystal uses the sword to make a new weapon as Chase tries to talk Crystal into going on camera. She refuses and heads out, followed by Maggie as Chase tries to break through to her about her dead daughter. I was just so glad they left the pawn shop here. Like, a huge section of this film is them just in this pawn shop. It's really boring. In fact, a lot of the locations in this film are really freaking boring.
Yeah. I mean, I agree too, and I also don't think it was the right time for Chase to tell him about her daughter. You're in surrounded by zombies. It's a really, really bad time because what if she had decided to break or crack or scream or
who cares, right? Who cares?
Well, yeah,
what difference does it make? What difference does it make? She's, you know what I mean? Just let her believe what she wants to believe. You don't need to bring her crashing down to reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Alone now, he calls Jordan and starts looking through the shop for some weapons. Meanwhile, Crystal is making her way through the streets with Maggie in tow. They spy a van, the plan being to do it quietly, but Chase suddenly emerges looking like a badass, geared up and making a ton of noise before starting a rampage through The Walking Dead. There's some dodgy CGI here. Did you notice that with the weapons?
Proper dodgy.
Yeah, it's really like, it grabs your attention and makes you go, oh no, I don't like that.
Yep, definitely.
But hilariously, after just a few zombies, Chase ends up with 0 weapons and end up having to fight off a horde with his bare hands and anything he can get his hands on. This was so weird. Like, he emerges from the store with his tooled up and you're like, okay, here's some butt rock and there's going to be a bit of a rampage as he takes out all the zombies, and then he stops and he's maybe standing in front of like Crystal and Maggie, and he's all like, right, should we get going then? He says a badass line. Instead, he takes out like 3 or 4 zombies with bad CGI, then just loses all his weapons and is left fighting for his life. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. Why would you write it that way?
I mean, for starters, his main weapon, the saw weapon, is so rubbish because if that gets stuck, which it would get stuck, you're then trying to yank it out and you're getting eaten behind. It's like, come on, man, he's a better weapon. But I did like the scene though where he grabbed a traffic cone and put it on the zombie's head. I thought that was quite funny. So,
well, that's of course classic Dead Rising stuff, isn't it? Yeah. This leads into a school bus, but on a school bus. Now you will notice here, it's done as if it's one unbroken shot. That is what they do here. But it's done in a way where it is broken though. So when the camera kind of zooms up to his back, that's where the cuts are. But it's done in a way to imply it's not cutting at all. But he gets attacked by a few zombie kids in the bus, which I thought was fun. Back out and onto its roof, and eventually ending up in the position he was in at the start of the movie. This is where we come in. Now, you might expect them to just cut and go directly to the point where we started with. But we get a trimmed down version of what happened with the zombie copper and the zombie clown. That annoyed the hell out of me. Don't reshow it. We already saw it. And I know they trim it down, but all it did was make me realize the opening was really long because of this trimmed down version. Of course, though, he gets saved this time by Crystal and Maggie in a truck. So that's the part we didn't see.
Yeah.
Jordan ends up meeting Leon, who seems like he might be on the side of good, even as Norton continues to refuse to help her get Zombrex to Jesse. She leaves, and something in some files disturbs Norton. So we are getting the impression here that Leon's he's on Jordan's side, whereas Norton is constantly like, leave me alone. I'm trying to work here.
Yeah.
As night falls, Jordan returns to her car to find a piece of paper with a location highlighted on it. It's a place where there is Zombrex inside the quarantine area. And she naturally, and I thought it too, thought it was Norton.
Yeah, it made more sense to me, Norton, yeah.
Yeah, well, at the time it does, because it implies that Norton does imply that he'd like to help her, but he's just under so much pressure. Meanwhile, Jesse thinks he knows a way. Jesse, I keep doing it. Chase thinks he knows a way for them to get out, but we're briefly interrupted for Maggie to push a zombie over in a wheelchair. That was really random.
Yep.
Crystal now returns, and Chase reveals that Jordan has told him where to get Zombrex. Good thing the government didn't block phone networks, eh? And I wrote it here, like, this is such a plot hole, man.
Yeah, indeed.
And you can't even say, oh, they left the phone networks on so that people like Jordan could communicate with Chase. They could never have known that a person like Jordan would end up outside the wall. Like, that is a hell of a coincidence.
Yep, exactly.
They drive to the location and go inside via a shipping container. It appears to be deserted and they end up in a warehouse. Great. You know what I love about these crappy locations? A fucking warehouse.
Yep.
Why? Really? This is so unimaginative. It is very big. And it's a bit Raiders of the Lost Ark. Do you get that right? I was half expecting them to come across the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And here Maggie gets separated from the other two when she finds a teddy bear. And she can hear one, like a recording going off somewhere. Right, we'll get to that. Chase and Crystal find a huge supply of Zombrex, but also find a chained up zombie. They realize that the Zombrex is the stuff that was given to the survivors at the start, so probably not good. How do you know? I mean, admittedly, they don't say they know. They just presume.
Presume, yeah.
Chase has an idea, and he suggests Crystal take the bad Zombrex, and he film her. If it is bad, she will start to show symptoms, and then she can take her last good one. Now, naturally, and I agree, she doesn't love this idea, but the urgency of the firebombing has her agree once she angrily takes it the chained up zombie. You're shaking your head, but I don't hate this idea. It's I know it's desperation. They need something, and it's like, look, this will work, so why not do it?
I get that. 100%. I understand that. But there was no guarantee that her shot was going to stop the reaction.
Well, yes, that's the only question. Is they are presuming that the Zombrex is bad, e.g., it doesn't work. What they don't know is that there's something in a Zombrex that triggers or enhances or speeds up the zombie reaction. They don't know that. Yep. So it's very risky. And the whole scene of like Crystal getting angry and taking it to chain at zombie, I get the whole it's just to show her frustration, but it just felt. This is why this film's nearly 2 hours long. Bits like this.
Yeah. As a lot they could have cut down.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Maggie has followed a recorded toy, the recording way here, to a door that is covered with blood and with a block of wood on it, clearly saying, "Don't open me." It might as well have had the words written dead inside, like The Walking Dead, "Don't open." It may as well have had that written on it. And naturally, she opens it. And honestly, Damon, man, I have these moments on my own when I'm writing notes, man. I would have thrown my chair. I was like, what the fuck? This is dumb beyond belief.
Yep.
And it's dumb because there's no good reason for her to go in this. because it's implying that the recording she's hearing, I guess it's implying, is similar to the toy her daughter had, right?
That's what I
Tell
thought.
us that. Show
Yeah,
us
yeah.
that. Make that clear.
Mhm.
You know what you did? You make it clear. You know when she's found with her daughter dead at the start of the movie? Have that bear recording going off at the same time right
There you go.
there.
There you
And
go.
we're
Yep.
hearing it, so it's a link. So, what's inside? It's zombies, obviously. It's a zombie room. It's a zombie room. A ton of zombies. Well, I was shocked. But that's not what's odd. One of which happens to be her daughter, who is kind of like doing a really interesting pose in front of like the light to give it a visual.
Yep.
And yeah, Maggie, seeing her daughter, kind of breaks down and then dies and gets eaten by her daughter. Now, this scene, I think, it's just hot. You know what? I think it's horrible. I think it's really depressing and dark, and the tone does not fit with the rest of the film. It doesn't even fit with Dead Rising. How can you go from we're making weapons and we're killing zombies with them and la 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 to here's a woman wrought by grief coming across her zombified daughter and letting her daughter eat her because she can't go on? How do those two things fit together?
I agree with that, but what I thought was, one, how did she get in there? Who put her in there? Who locked the door? Because it's only been about an hour or two. There's not been a lot of time that's passed since they met her. So how did she get there?
No, I'm afraid I'm going to have to correct you there. You've got everything wrong in this one, Damon. It's been longer than an hour. It's been over a day now.
Okay, but then
Remember, night fell and morning came back around, and we're actually back to night again. So it's been over 24 hours at least, right? That's
okay.
one art. No, I've answered that.
Yep.
The biker gang did this. So later on in the movie, when the biker gang arrive, they will make a point, in fact, of saying, who left the zombie room open?
Okay, yes. Yeah, I remember that, yes.
They basically rounded up zombies for whatever purpose. They rounded up zombies and put them inside a room, either for potential defense. If their warehouse gets attacked, maybe they open the zombie room and just let them out, that kind of thing. Or they use them for fun. Who knows? They kind of use them for fun, actually, because obviously Chase will end up in a situation involving certain zombies later on in the movie. Now, what I was like, wait, didn't I even questioned where Maggie may have. I was like, okay, why isn't Maggie like, I thought Maggie killed her daughter. But to be fair, Maggie's just like, she might have thought she killed her daughter, but she didn't. Do you know what I mean? She might have thought she killed her and she reanimated anyway. I'm okay with all of this. Is it a coincidence? Of course it is. It's a freaking heavy coincidence. And I'm still annoyed by the fact that Maggie even went in that room. I really am. But my biggest issue is how dark the scene is, how horrible it is. I think it's really horrible and really sad, and that had this character been given a lot more depth and weight, it would, and the film have a tone that felt like it was supposed to be emotional. But how do you contrast scenes of Chase fighting off a zombie clown with a scene like this? They don't work. The tone's just too dark. This doesn't work. This is too depressing.
Do you think it was more dark because of the daughter biting it, or the fact that she got basically ripped apart by hundreds of zombies?
It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. She finds her zombie daughter, breaks down, allows her daughter to kind of bite her, and then we still get a lingering shot as it kind of zooms out of her then being attacked by the rest. And it's like, that's just horrible. Why do such a horrible sim? What I don't understand is, like, why isn't this film sticking with a more comical tone that the games have? Like, you could say, oh, the games had the odd harrowing moment. It's always done with a sort of tongue-in-cheek vibe. This is just harrowing. You know what it calls back to? It calls back to what happens. So Dead Rising 2 obviously has an ending that would happen if you don't give Katie, Chuck's daughter, Zombrix. Think about it. It's a timer. What happens if it runs out?
Well, she'll turn.
Exactly. So there's an ending, an early ending that you can get by just not giving Katie Zombrix. It's a really dark and horrible scene. That's what I think is a callback or two. But you know what? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think it fits in the movie. Unless the whole movie's tone was going to be dark and depressing.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's all by the by because it's all done by the idea that she even she should never have gone in that room, and the character has no weight to her.
Yeah, and the other two didn't bother going after her or
Yeah,
going after
they
her.
were quite quick. Oh, where's she gone? Oh well.
Yeah, who cares?
The zombies are free now, though, and no one chasing Crystal. They're doing a Zombrix test and proving that the government supplied stuff that doesn't work. I guess, maybe. Chase us to help her take her good stuff, though, as the Simpsons start to take over. That was, again, this is why this movie's nearly 2 hours. Why did we get that extra extended scene?
Yeah.
Before, I mean, I guess it's to say, like, oh, maybe Crystal can't go alone. But she hasn't throughout the entire movie. But she hasn't throughout the entire movie. She hasn't even said, I work alone or anything like that. Before they can get into it, though, the freed zombies make their arrival and they barely escape with Crystal being bitten in the arm again. That's pointless. What is the purpose of that? I don't know why. I don't really get why they had to have anyone bitten again here. I would have had Chase bitten, similar to Frank West, which means he will end up having to take Zombrix too. So his story, his scenario becomes more urgent. The escape is short-lived, though, as they end up on a balcony with zombies at the door behind them and zombies below them. Frank's advice continues being incredibly unhelpful. Inside the warehouse, Chase dresses Crystal's wound and they realize that Maggie is probably dead. So, what do we wait? Should we wait for this? No, we'll wait. You know, we'll mention it now. I couldn't work out why they thought they were dead. Why they just give up here. So they're on this kind of balcony inside a larger part of the warehouse, right? And fair enough, there's nothing they can reach or anything like that. And behind them is the door with the zombies, right? But they are so fucking quick to go, oh, well, we're dead because the zombies below us and all that. There are options. So, if you're that desperate, for example, here's an idea. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the door. I'm going to try to open the door really small and let one in at a time. When one comes in, you grab it and throw it over the top. Do that over and over again, over and over again. Now, admittedly, you open the door, the pressure of the zombies might end up causing them all to flood in. Take your fucking chances with the zombies below. There are other things you can climb onto if you're quick enough. It implies it's quite high. So, I mean, it is a little difficult. But, man, the idea that it's going to sit there and wait to die, I found to be really infuriating.
Yeah, I mean... I'm probably going to answer this myself, but the fact that what was the purpose of that balcony? Was there no stairs? Was there no other balcony, or was it just, or did the biker again break it as a trap?
Maybe that. I thought maybe it's like a foreman's thing, so a boss might come out there and look down upon the all right, you lot, that kind of thing. But even still, you'd think there'd be a set of stairs that go up and down. You are right. It's a bit odd because we don't really see, do we?
No, it's just a bit random. It's just a balcony, yeah.
So Crystal reveals that she's a survivor of Fortune City. And I was like, don't you do that, guys. Don't do that. Because Fortune City is, of course, Dead Rising 2. And she was shunned afterwards because of her zombie infection. She lost everyone, including her friends and fiancé. This is the story this film should be exploring. Forget the chase stuff. Forget the story. Forget the conspiracy. Forget all of that. Just explore the idea of this isolation of people who've been bitten and have to take Zombrix. It's something I think is really good. She ends up sharing the footage of her Zombrix taking to Chase's network. And I thought, wow, not only do phone calls work, but the internet works as well. That is really handy.
And that uploaded pretty fast, man.
to a really weird network as well, but we won't talk about that,
Yeah.
We also, for some reason, learned that Chase's real name isn't Chase, it's Chris Kabowski, and Chase is his stage name. This is why this film is 2 hours long. Who gives a fuck? What does it mean anything? All right, it's designed to imply that Chase wants to be a star, but it's he's not the first to take a stage name. What difference does it make? But Crystal's all like, you'll be bigger than Frank West. And I'm like, don't do that thing. Frank West is still a reporter on the news channel. He's not a freaking goddamn Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
We see the video starts to go viral and spread around the world. Still in the warehouse, Jordan calls Chase and reveals that she's going to speak to Feezer and see if they will let people out now, because now the truth is known. Is it? One video goes out. All the government has to do is go, that's fake.
Yep.
And the majority of people will go, well, of course it is. In fact, based off the way the world is, the way the world is, I reckon within 10 minutes of Chase's video going up, there was another video of some YouTuber going, oh, well, this is why that video is fake. And doing all, and something like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I don't know, maybe it's us that's the problem. The cynicism of the modern world made me just go, don't buy it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
So Chase is downbeat and says his goodbye. And like it's here, I was like, what are you doing? You have options. None of them are great options, but you have options. What are you going to do? Sit there and starve to death?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. You know what? It doesn't matter. Because the biker gang arrive and open up the hangar-style door. It turns out that this is their hideout. And they had the zombies stored. And that guy in the chain, that was one of their members who was bitten. Right. I did wonder why Chris and Crystal never actually asked a question about the chained up zombie. So, because that was, if you think about it, and I didn't realize until this scene came up, because they're like, oh yeah, talking about the zombie. Who let the zombie room out? That's how so-and-so got bitten, which is the chained up zombie.
Yeah.
Right. Chase and Crystal never asked a question about that. They're like, oh, it looks like someone lived here. Who chained up that zombie? Now, that should make you go, all right, someone lived here or lives here, and it's a big warehouse, so they might still be here. And then I might have gone, what if it's that biker gang? Oh, look, there's all these bikes around here, bike parts and things like that.
So, me personally, I actually thought, I didn't think that much either. I actually thought that maybe he got bitten and he chained himself up. And that's why he was injecting himself out of hope that he wouldn't turn into a zombie.
Which would only work if, like, he'd left a message then. Otherwise, it's like, well, otherwise we all have to do guesswork. Meanwhile, Jordan confronts Norton, who is less than pleased to see her and refuses to help her with her chase problem. With no luck there, she goes to see Leon's and shows him the video, and he points out that, look, I'm not running the operation and can't help. But then proceeds to go, well, if I was in charge, I would send in a squad to rescue them. And it's like, okay, what I don't get here, right? I don't get this, right? So the army is sent in to support Feezer, that's fine. But he then implies that they're, like, he says before that they will commence firebombing. Well, isn't that you doing the operation then? Isn't that the operation? What is the operation then?
Yeah, it's completely backwards now. 1 minute is, 1 minute is not.
Because what I don't understand, if the operation is to help Feezer, who are there to help people, but they're not helping anyone. They locked everybody in and won't let anybody out. What is the operation? Isn't the operation to contain and then destroy, right? So isn't that the army? Chase and Crystal are rescued hilariously by one of the biker gang members, and Logan is quite pleased to see Crystal, of course, with Chase then being knocked out. A press conference with Leon's again, and Norton goes bad when Jordan starts to ask difficult questions, and the foreman throws the latter in the bus. So what they do is they team up. Jordan starts to ask Norton questions about the video that he can't answer, and he has to go defensive. And then Leon's kind of throws him under the bus. It's all like, well, you know, we're here to support them, but we're not too impressed by what they're doing. And it is a bit like, wait, isn't Feezer like backed by the government? Wouldn't the government be like, what are you doing here? And like, do you know what I mean? Like, what's annoying, and I guess it's in a better film, it'd be better shown. The idea is that it's trying to show that the press are complicit with the government, happy to not ask difficult questions and so on, that kind of thing. In a better movie, that would be shown, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and the guy who plays Norton, he's actually a much better actor than he is in this. He's in like 10 seasons of Stargate, and he's fantastic. Yeah, he's brilliant in this.
Okay. Chase, so furious Norton walks off, and it seems pretty clear he's been set up. Meanwhile, Chase now wakes up to find himself tied inside a forklift as a song plays and zombies start to approach. This is for one particular biker's entertainment as Chase struggles to get free. Through a comical series of events, and it is quite a comical series of events, the gas line of the forklift gets ripped out, spraying gas, and one zombie ends up with his arm on fire. This is fun. This is entertaining. because it is like, how is Chase going to get free? And it's tense, and the zombie getting his arm set on fire and then slowly making his way towards the gap. Like, that's a fun sequence of events.
It's a fun scene until the ending part, which I thought was absolutely stupid.
Okay, all right, interesting. Because as it approaches, Chase is now able to use a knife in the back of another one, which I loved as well. The idea of taking like a weapon out of a dead zombie, and he escapes this resulting explosion, and that explosion blows up a lot of the zombies and sends the knife that he used careening into the chest of the nearby zombie biker, killing him. I thought this was a good action scene. I thought it was one of the best action scenes of the film. I'm not sure what you didn't like about it.
No, it was a great action scene, and I thought it was funny, but it's just like, come on, man, that's just stupid.
Yeah, but that's what I want. That's what I want. I want the kind of silliness. Then I don't want just to see people dying and getting ripped apart in a horrible scene. I want to see the comical, over the top. I want to see a freaking dead, like going back to Dead Rising, the original, the one you're aware of. I want to see a clown with 2 chainsaws chasing after me. I want to see a cult in like all the stuff that Dead Rising. I want to see that, the silliness, the over the top madness. I want to see 3 convicts driving around in a Jeep with a machine gun on the back of it. I want to see the nonsense. The news now reveals that the government has handed control of the operation over to the military as Visa has been removed. Leon meets with Jordan and claims, look, we sent a team to the warehouse you mentioned, but there was nothing there but zombies. And immediately, well, that's like, she's like, oh no, poor Chase. But we know that's a lie. We know it's a lie.
Yeah.
But he claims they're restarting evacuation and that she should be grateful or glad that she saved a lot of lives. To be fair, that part is true, as they do actually open the gates and start to lead people out of the city. As Jordan watches on, Chase calls her and she realizes that Leon's lied to her. And this is where the fucking blocking signal makes no sense. Like, how do you not know already that Jordan has been communicating with Chase? And even if you didn't want to block the signal before because you wanted to get the information out, right? You needed the information to get out, so you didn't want to block the signal. Block it now.
Block it now, yeah. So I don't get that, and this is throughout the entire film, the entire time that Jordan's in the sort of like the camp. For starters, I don't get why she's still there for. That's what I don't get for. It's a military area, it's a private area, and she's there.
No way.
And she's filming everything, she's pitching everything, and they can all see it. And no one's sitting there thinking, hang on a second, we better get that camera off her because this is private. Because surely, you know.
I'm going to go out on a limb. You are right, I think, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's not so much that it's a private military camp, it's a refugee camp for the survivors. So maybe that's it. The problem is, you're right, you know what would help? If we saw other people around. If we saw other survivors around. She tells Chase to come to the exit, but suspects that something more is going on. Chase could leave, because they have this thing where it's like, oh, is he leaving and leaving Crystal behind? But we know, obviously, he's not going to. Speaking of her, she's in a company of Logan, who is got her in a room, and look, I'm not going to presume what his intentions are here, but there's a few too many implications here that, again, what are you doing tone-wise, man? This is just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying like, oh, is he going to rape her or things like that. He doesn't explicitly say that, but there's a lot of implications here that he might do some not so nice stuff to her. And I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, how do we go from Chase and the forklift scene to this? What are you doing?
What do you think of his character, like the actor who plays it? Do you think he because I actually thought he played the character quite well.
I think in a better movie, with a better story, with better characters overall, he could have been a brilliant human villain. Like a proper human villain that they run into several times throughout the film, leading to the kind of big battle we get at the end. With a better, rather than being just all he is a powered up thug. Yeah. And I don't like that. I also would have made him a bit stupid. Like a bit of a meathead. That kind of thing. Instead, he does come across like he's got a bit of brains about him. But then it's like, oh yeah, well, here we go. Here he's being a bit, well, to want of a better word, rapey.
Yes, yeah.
But it's the tone again. Why are we doing this?
What was the rating for this film? Do you know?
Oh, I didn't look, but it's got to be 15 or 8. There's no actual sex or nudity. Swearing isn't too egregious. It's probably a 15.
Yeah.
So he ends up revealing that he plans to blow up the wall around the city because he's loving his role in the zombie apocalypse and he wants it to continue. We now see that there's a guard who's sort of outside, and guess what? See what he's playing?
Yeah, that's all here.
Dead Rising. I think he's playing Dead Rising 2.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't one, but I found that quite funny. That was pretty cool.
I find it stupid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's not a reference. That's just like her. So how does Crystal get out of this? What is Chase doing? She bites Logan on the face and reveals to him she's infected. Chase, using a motorbike, has rounded up a massive horde of zombies and now leads them back into the warehouse. Not the worst idea. Think the end of 28 Days Later.
Yes.
Chase and Logan fight as Crystal takes on the lesser goon character and kills him. With Crystal's help, they're able to get away from Logan, who is now attacked by a zombified Maggie. Because, hey, you know what's really extra depressing? Seeing Maggie as a zombie. Thanks for that.
Yes.
The drive at the warehouse as the news reveals that the firebombing is imminent. Leon's in another press conference now reveals that the government plans to put Zombrex's chips into survivors, framing it as a good thing and necessary for the defense of the country. So basically, they come up with this idea of a chip inside a person who's infected with the zombie virus that will administer Zombrex at intervals throughout that time and will last for 1 year and so on and so forth. This is brilliant. And this is from the game. And this is brilliant because this ties into an overarching conspiracy theory, the idea of the government tracking you, and the idea that we as humanity will give up aspects of our civil liberties, give up aspects of our liberties to feel safe. And by creating a scenario where people no longer feel safe because Zombrex could fail, they create the situation where people will welcome these chips alongside a compliant media, more than happy to go along with it without asking too many questions.
Yep.
This is a great angle and what should have been the focus throughout the entire movie instead of all the confusion around it, because this works in the role of a movie as well, not just the references to what the games do as well.
Yes.
But for your knowledge, this is the direction that the game's going. Did you? So
that's basically like that's the storyline then for like okay.
Game's going forward.
Yeah, cool.
Right, yes. So Jordan speaks to Norton and reveals that he never actually left her the note, sending her to the warehouse, and that they've both been used by Leon's. The government can now happily plant mandated Zombrex chips into the infected to track them, and no one will argue because of the dangers. Looking through the pictures taken, including ones that Chase took, reveal a much darker picture. So realizing she has to get information, she goes to Leon's and kind of pretends to be there to ask for closure about Chase. She's coy, but she also asks too many questions. And as she leaves, you can tell she got the suspicions of Leon. Leon's up.
I mean, I thought it's pretty. I thought he spotted her phone in her pocket.
Oh no, well, I think it's just the questions anyway. Yeah. Unsurprisingly, Frank in the news is not a fan of the chips. In fact, that's an angle they will utilize in the games, that Frank never gets chipped. Quietly and secretly, Jordan and Norton meet and discuss what they know. He's been digging and Fees are apparently clueless about the chips and the delivery of Zombrex to the refugee center. It's looking like this was a military plan and he implanted defective Zombrex drugs to start an outbreak. No shit. I cannot believe how long it takes these characters to get to this point. However, en route to blow the lid on things, Norton is grabbed and Jordan has no choice but to hide. She does things faster and records a video message and hides her evidence in a newspaper vending machine. After all, who would look there? Now, this is a callback to the start, where she gave Chase a coin to go get a newspaper from the vending machine, and he kind of is like, oh, who gets news that way anymore? And I think it's a really clever idea, because actually in this modern world, nobody is going to realistically look inside a newspaper vending machine.
I think it's a great idea until the end.
Okay, all right. Following that, she's grabbed by the army as Chase and Crystal arrive at the exit. So we're at the end. Unfortunately for them, the army at the gate, Logan is still alive, and has followed them and is able to fire off smoke grenades to obscure the shooter's vision. He then leads a horde of zombies to the wall as Chase sees it as a bomb, and it basically, his plan, even though he's like basically dying, he's going to continue his plan. Chase and Crystal tool up and face up against Logan. Both using makeshift weapons. They really make a big deal of this, but it doesn't work like the game. Of course, with zombies about, this is a difficult fight, and eventually they're able to get the better of Logan, but not before he manages to throw the bomb close to the gate. Of course, Chase is able to stop the bomb, which is attached to an axe, and launch it into Logan, where it blows up and kills him. And Chase and Crystal are saved and brought out of the city. So I think this sort of ending sequence fight, I think this is pretty good. I think it's fun. I think it's violent. I think it makes Logan seem like a proper good villain, although I would have personally built him up better in the film. You know, and I like the total tension around the bomb. I don't mind this as a sort of final fight.
Yeah, I've got no problem with it. So it has the aspects of the film, which is like the silliness, you know, throwing the axe and hitting him and exploding,
and blowing up and all that.
Yeah,
and the effects of stuff like that look. The effects of stuff like that look really good, actually. I must say as well.
It was.
So we then see Leon's being given the go for the implanted chip operation as Chase and Crystal reunite in a medical tent, sharing a moment about surviving. It's here, though, that he finally gets to charge his phone, because apparently his phone died at some point in between, and we didn't. You know what's annoying? They made this film 2 hours long by filling it with a load of content. Maybe just have a scene where his phone dies.
Yeah.
But obviously now his phone's on. He gets all the information from Jordan. The footage proving the army's complicity in the news, the new outbreak. So, and this leads Chase to the newspaper vending machine when he calls her phone and hears it ringing, and then discovers like the footage on that, including Jordan being taken into custody by the government. So he's got all that. He's got all that information. What was your problem with this?
I just like the fact that he's ringing the phone and there's army soldiers around, and then he opens it and they didn't even think, oh, hang on a second, I'll take it off or something like that.
Why would they? Why would they?
Because I don't know, or if the general was there and he spotted the phone because he already seen the phone before.
The general's gone. The operation is now underway. The general's gone. No, I know what you're implying, but the only way that works, right? The only way that works is if they're actively looking for evidence. They never were.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I would have preferred maybe like he's standing there, he's staring at it, and then he remembers what she said to him, and he thought, oh, well, I can't find her. Maybe she puts it in there.
That would have been. I would have hated that. I disagree.
Oh, yeah.
I would have hated that because that would just be like, that's the. Why would he even think that? Oh, I look in the news. Like, it was a random thing, and it was only because it wasn't like she was at the start. She was implying it would be a good hiding place. She does it because she's like, oh yeah, this is how real news. Like, to remind him about like the standards of news ethics and stuff like that.
Oh, he opens it. He goes to buy a paper and goes, oh, I'll read a bit of real news. And then I think that it's inside, you know, referencing what he said.
I don't know. I think all of that's a leak. I think we differ on this. I'm fine with it because he doesn't like. There's no reason for the army to be looking for anything, and a phone ringing in a refugee camp is not going to be a big deal.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, we revealed that as well that the chips implant is called Project Watchtower. So that's the answer behind the stupid name of Dead Rising Watchtower. Of course, the news frames all of this as a positive, with Frank being more pessimistic. We finally see that while Jordan managed to get the footage proving the army's complicity out there, the US government have basically said, nah, mate, not true, as expected, and the news has played along. Chase and Crystal realize they can't trust the military as the city is now firebombed, and we get a final shot that I think is just unnecessarily depressing again, which is a zombified Maggie and her daughter hand in hand, leaving the warehouse and then literally being obliterated by the firebombing. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Why do we have to see that?
There was no need for it at all. I don't get it.
See, this film ends with not really a resolution, a sort of like, oh well, the army are gonna get away with it. And you could argue it's a bit of a sequel bait, but then there's no need for a sequel to exist at all in the same breath. Do you know what I mean?
Is there any more films, or is that the only film?
There is a sequel.
Okay.
But there is actually a sequel. There is a second one called Dead Rising Endgame. There's no after credit scene as well. I stayed to the end to make sure there wasn't something thrown in. And that's Dead Rising Watchtower. Kind of peters out at the end. Kind of feels like, oh, all right, okay. And as I said at the start, proves to be a very frustrating watch, an annoyingly bad watch, because I do not get who this film is for. And the tone is all over the place. And there's so many times when I think, oh, you could have done this better. This could have been more enjoyable, and so on and so forth. That's my feelings on it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the film. I thought it was okay. I mean, would I watch it again? Probably not. To be fair, I probably wouldn't. Maybe when we do the second one, I might have to watch the first one just to remind myself if it's like any sort of continuance on some story. I don't know, but
Well, I will
yeah,
reveal to you now. I might as well reveal to you now that yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. This is Endgame is a direct sequel with returning characters and all. But I'll
okay.
also reveal this to you. I think Endgame is the better movie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. So that's an interesting one. I do actually think Endgame's the better movie, but there's a reason why. That's for another video, of
Mm.
course. Dead Rise and Watchtower. That's our thoughts and opinions on it and our talk through of it. You got any thoughts you want to share? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.